All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome aboard. It's Coe from Girl on the Bus Adventures, and we are here for the um, Magic We Made tour this morning. And that is because a year ago is when the last three shows of the Eras tour kicked off here in Vancouver. I still can't believe we got to have the last three shows because Vancouver's kind of known for being like a sleepy little town. There are much more, in other people's opinions, exciting cities in Vancouver, or in Canada, sorry. like, I don't know, Toronto, Montreal. But no, she ended it all here in Vancouver at BC Place. And so I just kind of wanted to do a little walk around Vancouver and chat and tell some stories. If you follow me closely, you know that I actually got to go to the Eras tour in New Orleans, and I'll talk about that a bit more later. But I also got to work two of the shows at BC Place, and I also got to do Taylor Swift Karaoke for Big Bus West Coast Sightseeing. I hosted Taylor Swift Karaoke. So I'm just going to take a moment. It's cold in Vancouver. Now it's cold for Vancouver. Compared to the rest of Canada, this is not cold. It is only 6 degrees Celsius. Go ahead and look that up on Google to see what it is in Fahrenheit. You got to remember, it's all relative, right? I live here. I've lived on the West Coast my whole life. It's a bit chilly. Got a little coffee here, and we're just going to walk and talk. And in just a second, I'm going to turn this around. I'm trying to find a flat surface so I can put my coffee down for a moment. But I got to wait for the light to change. We're going to go off topic for a second while I'm talking about lights changing and crossing the street. I have to laugh so hard. I was doing a tour out in Fort Langley yesterday, and I kind of like darted across the street with my camera. And I remember talking, saying like, "Oh, here I go, crossing the street. I'm going to be safe, blah, blah, blah." And one of my friends actually saw me and made a comment on my Facebook Messenger about being crossing the street with a camera in my hands. It's just kind of funny. So back to Taylor stuff. I'm going to turn this around real quick here so you can see where we are right now. There we go, trying to turn it around. Ooh, there's so many more steps to turning the camera around now than there used to be with StreamYard. But hey, as they kind of change things up, right, make things better, things are going to change a little bit. Now let me see if I can go. There we go. That's the screen I wanted. Thank you. So up ahead of us, let me adjust the camera here. Whoops, sorry, that's a little bit too. There we go. Those spikes up in the air. That building, that is BC Place. So that is where it all happened last year. Um, they had a lot of the streets closed off. On the bottom, they had dump trucks placed so people couldn't access the roads right around the arena or stadium. And the whole city was just full of Taylor magic. I was looking up last night and yesterday. Do you know that all of the fabulous Swifties and their families and friends who came to Vancouver for this event, supporting their Swifties or getting their kids here, or whatever, brought in $157 million. And over the course of the Eras tour here in Vancouver, and of course that was December 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I was originally going to do this tour on, I think, Sunday, but I'm actually headed off to Victoria this weekend and had to change the date because I had an opportunity to do some cool things there. So we're right outside the Hampton Inn right now, right across from BC Place. We have the Hampton Inn, the Georgian Court, and YWCA. Um, Probably some of you might have stayed in some of these hotels. They said that 70% of the people who came to the Eras tour were from out of town. And I know a lot of people were trying to get tickets for Vancouver, and it was just insane. Like, what? Whew, even getting my tickets for New Orleans was crazy, and I didn't even find my tickets. I had a friend find them for me. So this is down at Terry Fox Plaza, and they are obviously doing a lot of construction. Now, of course, we have another big world event because, yes, I classify the Eras Tour as a world event because, believe me, I met people from all around the world that came to Vancouver. I met people from Australia even. So they're getting ready. Some of this is getting ready for the FIFA World Cup happening in June, and that is going to be insane. They actually say that this was comparable to us hosting the 2010 Olympics, having the Eras Tour here. Like, that is crazy. Imagine that. Um, so this is where it all happened. And this is kind of like the main entrance of the Terry Fox Plaza. I actually got to go to a really cool soccer game here before the Eras Tour. I was working and got to be standing at this gate and assisting with people coming in. And I actually got to see the entire Canadian team come in for another event. So that was kind of cool. And they were something to do with the jersey for, was it Christine Sinclair? Anyways, back to our lovely Eras tour. So if you came to Vancouver, you probably had fun trying to navigate the city. I want to say thank you to all the people who followed my TikToks. That was one of the most fun things I've ever done. Was teaching people kind of how to navigate Vancouver, where to go, what to do while they were here for the Eras tour. And I had a lot of fun just responding to messages and helping people figure out if they were staying in the right spot or knew where to go for parking and things like that. And then it got really fun because while I was doing that, the weekend of the Eras tour, I was out and about, of course, because I live in the city, I work in the city, and I had taken time off from Lego. We're going to do a little bit of walking now that I've shown you BC Place. I'd taken time off from my job at the Lego store to work the Eras tour and all of the events in the city and things that I was doing. I did do a tour of Sunday morning around from some of the 13 words that they had around the city to do with Taylor. Some of them were just words, some of them were song titles or album titles, and they had them in big lights. And there was 13 hidden around the city, and you had to like scan them. And if you found all 13, you could enter into a draw to win a pair of tickets. And it really just added to the atmosphere here in Vancouver. So I don't think I got all of the words. Again, I had fun because I was doing the karaoke tours for Big Bus, and I met my sister and my niece downtown afterwards. And we went off to find some of the words together. So that was really neat. In fact, I had to laugh because I was there with my niece, which means I'm an auntie. And I think the first picture we got one together, was of anti-hero, which of course is a bit of a play on words. So that was really fun. Um, I refer to those times as my 5 days of Tay. Really, the only way to describe it. So this is actually the YWCA. And when I was reading stuff today, um, I found out that they had some kind of donation event for friendship bracelets going on. And I didn't have a chance to see if they still had the information from it or if I could find it. But that's just one example of how many things were going on around the city. I remember on the Friday night I had to work the Canucks game, and I was walking down probably Georgia Street, and they had a random guitar thing out there playing Taylor Swift music. Like there was just stuff everywhere in the city. And it really was just a fun time to be here. But I have to say, I'm so glad that I went to the Eras tour in New Orleans, because then I had a taste of kind of what to expect for Vancouver, because all I really wanted to do, because as a new Swiftie, I was just loving the whole, I don't know, kingdom, fandom, Swiftum. And I really wanted to be just 120% in, ready to just welcome everybody. Um, it was just such a neat time. We were down here by the Queen Elizabeth Theatre. We have Harbor Center in the background, but it's kind of hard to see it because it is a little bit foggy here today. Kind of secretly hoping for the mountains that we get snow, and maybe that's why we have a little bit miserable weather. Got a coffee in one hand and my camera rig in the other. We're coming up close to the Sun Building, which is actually one of my favorite buildings here in Vancouver. One of many. So back to our Swiftie stuff and stories. I didn't go to New Orleans for Taylor. I normally go to New Orleans pretty much as soon as our tourism season is done here in Vancouver, which means I'm normally in New Orleans around the end of October. I love Halloween in New Orleans because everybody dresses up a lot. I mean, people dress up in New Orleans anyways, but they do all around Halloween, like the weekend before, the weekend of. And I just thought to myself, even if I don't get a ticket, because I had no clue about how to get a ticket, even if I don't get a ticket, what an amazing city to be in to just hang out during the 3 shows in New Orleans. And now I've been to New Orleans so many times that I know pricing and I know things. And so when I decided that I was going to go to New Orleans as usual over Eras, when I started looking at prices, I'm like, this is insane. Like, I don't pay these kind of prices to go to New Orleans. So I am going to I'm gonna fly into Atlanta to get cheap flights. I'm gonna stay in Atlanta for a couple of days, and I'm gonna go to New Orleans. And this is literally how I run and roll my life. I'm like, I will arrive in New Orleans for the last day of the Eras tour. Like, I literally took an overnight Greyhound bus from Atlanta to New Orleans and arrived at like 7 or 8 in the morning. And there we go, that building with the dome on top of the dome, trying to get a better view of it, is actually the Sun Building, and that's where Houdini. We're going to go off on a side tangent for a sec. That is where Houdini did that magic trick of right there in the middle of hanging upside down in a straitjacket, all chained up, and he undid himself while hanging upside down from that building, the Sun Building. So, anyways, back to New Orleans and the Eras. I found out leaving Atlanta on the Saturday night, literally sat down on the Greyhound bus and found out that they might possibly, my friends in New Orleans, might have found a ticket for me. Now, I saved all of my American $10 bills from my tip money all summer long. And at the end of the season, I had $500 in $10 bills. And the kind of work that I do in tourism doesn't necessarily generate a lot of $10 bills. So that was pretty wild in itself. I took the 500 to the bank, put it in my US account, and had a little bit of extra money I'd saved and been gifted to make sure I could get a ticket. And was absolutely dumbfounded to end up with a ticket for the Eras tour that was exactly $500 US. Like, that is amazing. Here we go. We're headed up towards into the downtown core. Thanks for those of you who are sticking with me. And so here I was on my way into New Orleans, had a ticket, and I just knew when I decided I was going to New Orleans as usual. And I said to myself, everybody was like, you're insane for going to New Orleans for the Eras tour without having a ticket. And I kept having to remind people, like, I go to New Orleans anyways. So it wasn't about going and having a ticket. It was going and experiencing what it was like to be surrounded by all the Swifties. But also, I wanted to see what it was like so that I knew that's the spaceship-looking building in the middle. That is Harbor Center. So I knew I wanted to know what it was going to be like for when we had all the guests here in Vancouver for Eras, because I was doing the karaoke and just wanted to have a feel for what everything was going to be like. So I'm like sitting in my Airbnb in Atlanta, literally making friendship bracelets to trade. And so I was ready for that part. I really had only been a Swiftie for about a year at that point, so everything was so new to me. But I was like ready for all of it, so ready. And at 3:00 in the afternoon on the Sunday, the last day of Eras, I secured my ticket. I paid for it. My bank called my phone like 30 seconds later and was like, somebody just put through a transaction. Like, it's okay. It's me. I did it. Like, and they asked me so many security questions and they were apologizing. I'm like, please don't ever apologize for making sure my account is secure. Like, no, don't worry about it. And then I had to check into the hostel I was staying at and go get dressed for have a shower, get dressed for the concert, and get ready. And it was all so surreal that I almost couldn't even really fathom that I actually, because so many people I know wanted to go to the show. The lady who found me the ticket didn't even get to go, but she found me. Like, I am forever, ever grateful to Rebecca, my friend in New Orleans, for finding me that ticket because, yeah, like it just, when I saw the messages that she put out to people looking for a ticket for me, like I was so overwhelmed by the nice things she said about me. She was kind of like, if anyone deserves to go to Eras in New Orleans, it's Ceaux, because she considers New Orleans to be like her home, which is true. So for me, it was pretty wild to be able to get to go in my city. So I ran upstairs and got checked into my little bunk, and I had an outfit for the Eras tour that was sparkly and everything. I had actually gotten it to go to a concert, a country concert, a few weeks previous for Jordan Davis, Ashley Cook, and Mitchell Tenpenny. And then it ended up being the perfect top for Eras and all my hosting duties. And so, but I also kind of didn't really have an outfit super put together because I'm kind of a little bit superstitious, and but also opposite to that. So this is Holy Rosary Cathedral. This is one of the 3 oldest cathedrals in Vancouver. Very, very beautiful cathedral. So one, people were like, you're going to New Orleans without a ticket. And I'm like, and you're only going for the one night of the show? And I'm like, because it's too expensive. And I said, if I am truly meant to go to the Eras concert, then I will find a ticket for that one night. That's all. And if I don't find it, then I'm just going to have fun. And then I'm the opposite, where I'm like, I don't want to like work super hard on an outfit, putting it together for the concert, and then not be able to go to the concert. But I wasn't really thinking about the fact that either way I was going to dress up, concert or not. And I ended up being able to go. So it was great because when I was making all my TikTok videos, like I even did TikTok videos on like how to walk literally from the SkyTrain into over to the stadium. And so as I was making these videos, I was going back to what it was like to walk through the city, from Canal Street all the way over to the Superdome, and just remembering like how excited I felt. And I mean, most of the hotels and accommodations in New Orleans are right in the city. And so there was thousands of people walking together down over to the football stadium, and every single shop, store, whatever, had their doors open and Taylor Swift music playing, and all the pedicab drivers had Taylor playing. And like, I remember just being like, I was walking almost feeling like I was having like, and some of you, if you're not really big Swifties, you'll probably roll your eyes at this, but like it was almost feeling like an out of body experience. Like I was just like, there's no way this is actually, like, I'm going to wake up and this is going to be a dream. And I don't usually get all caught up about things like this. Like, I love music. I love going to concerts. I love being around people. And I do love a good dress up. But like, this was all just so incredibly wild to me. And so when I was doing all these videos, because what I did was I basically, and you got to remember, I was a new Swiftie. I became a Swiftie on November 5th, 2023, when I went to see the Eras movie. And at that point, I was like, okay, there's got to be a way to, because I was getting ready to really start launching my company, Girl on the Bus Adventures, going beyond virtual tours at the time. And so I thought to myself, there's got to be a way to kind of market my little Girl on the Bus company, Girl on the Bus Adventures company through Taylor. So I was like, how can I do this? So I sat down and I looked at the list of all of Taylor's albums. And I actually did that right away because I also knew I was going to be going back to New Orleans because I go twice a year before the show. And I was going to be um, doing some videos. I wanted to do the same kind of videos for New Orleans as I did for Vancouver. So I sat down, made a list of the album titles, and then I looked at thought about all the things there was to do in New Orleans and all the things there was to do in Vancouver. And I related a tourist activity or cultural experience or something to every single album title. And it was so much fun to do that and then go and create the videos. And I did, of course, the videos in New Orleans for New Orleans 6 months in advance. So, for instance, for the album title Red, we have a very popular ghost here in Vancouver called the Lady in Red, and she lives at the Fairmont Hotel, Vancouver. And so my first video was done for Red. I only did it in order of how I kind of found things to talk about. So I went and stood outside the Fairmont Hotel, Vancouver, and told the story about the Lady in Red, Jenny Pearl Cox, who loved to hang out in the ballroom on the 14th floor at the Vancouver Hotel, Vancouver. And that is where she likes to haunt people, because they say that ghosts, of course, come back to where they were the most happiest most times. And that's where they haunt. And so she was a little socialite and loved the ballroom on the 14th floor. And so that's where she goes back to haunt. So I talked about that. And then I just kind of showed like how there's all these cute little cafes and the art gallery all around the Fairmont Hotel, Vancouver, and all the things they could do in that area while they were there, having no idea they were going to have a big Ferris wheel brought in and one of the 13 Taylor song titles or album titles in 13 words right on the art gallery plaza. And then when it came to New Orleans, I did a whole thing on red beans and rice, which is a traditional meal for the Monday. So it's like, y'all are staying in New Orleans for the Monday. You've got to go have red beans and rice somewhere because that's a New Orleans thing. I talked about how it was a tradition starting back when doing your laundry would take all day, right? Way back in the early days when you'd have to scrub it with a tub and a washboard and all those things. And so you would have to cook something that you could leave on the stove that could basically cook itself without having to worry too much. And you would often use the ham bone from Sunday's dinner to, that's my thigh, do your red beans and rice. So that was kind of fun. And then like for our Tortured Poets department, I was up on Frenchman Street in New Orleans and talked about how the first trip I did, or second trip to New Orleans, I remember being on Frenchman Street, and there was, there's lots of like street musicians and artists and things, and there is always somebody on Frenchman Street with a old-fashioned typewriter saying like, I'll write you a poem for, I don't know, $15 or something, whatever, on the spot. And I've yet to do that, but one day I'm going to. And I started my 10-minute video for that one, and I couldn't find the guy, but I'm like, I've got like a tight timeline, so I'll just have to talk about that. And then as I walked up the street and came back, the guy was set up with his typewriter. It was like, oh, that's kind of magical. So I did all these really fun videos, and then I just did some fun extra ones. I did more for Vancouver because obviously I live here and it's easier to just go out every couple of days and nail off a couple of videos. And But New Orleans, I was on a tight timeline, so I really only just got the albums done. I love this little alleyway. There's been all kinds of photo shoots here and stuff. So this is kind of fun because I get to show you a little bit around Vancouver as well as we do this. So I hope you're enjoying it. So that was like really exciting for me. I mean, I'm neurodivergent, so everything I do at like 110%. So it's really fun to kind of dive into the Swiftie life and just start promoting cities and researching stuff and getting really creative. I love doing creative things. So for me, just sitting down and finding things to relate all these 12 albums to was just incredibly inspiring. Like the Speak Now album, I went up to 4th Avenue, which is where it's actually the West Coast or the Canadian hotspot for all the hippies, kind of like Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco back in the day. So that was pretty wild. And then Reputation, I went to Granville Street, which is like Vancouver's version of Bourbon Street, but not even close because 1, you can't have open containers of alcohol. 2, it is kind of as trashy as Bourbon Street, but in a different way. That might raise some controversy. Whatever. This is my view of Vancouver. And so basically, like I ended up, and it was cool because I'm looking up all these things, but I'm also a tour guide. So I'd actually take the information I learned from this and actually apply it into my actual tour stuff. So learning things like the hardest one for me to relate was her 1989 album. Nothing happened of worthiness in Vancouver in 1989, not even in Canada. However, in 1889, they built the first Granville Street Bridge. So I went down to Granville Island and talked about the bridge and all this stuff and related that to the 1989 album. And I'm trying to remember, I don't remember what I did for New Orleans for 1989. Because that week, I was only in New Orleans for like maybe 6 or 7 days when I was filming videos. And I was also there for French Quarter Fest and doing all these different things. So I'd like go to a couple of shows at French Quarter Fest and then like rip off into the city and go film like 2 or 3 10-minute videos. I know one of them. I think one of them I filmed outside like the Monteleone and Midnights. I talked about the Vampire Cafe because, you know, that's kind of dark and brooding and vampire-y. I don't know. I think at one point for the New Orleans ones, I was almost kind of not quite grasping straws, but like, you know, it was, some of it was really tough. But again, it was just such a fun experience. This is Waterfront Station. It was a train station, built to be a train station all the way back in 1909. And coolness about it. So not only was it a train station for choo-choo trains, and yes, that is how I tell the story on the buses. It had, I'm trying to remember, a restaurant on the left side over here. And on the right side was a dance hall. Like, yes. So, and then the top part was a hotel. So this was like your get off the train, one-stop shop, restaurant, dance hall, dance the night away. Now remember, this is back in 1910. So, you know, we're not talking like short skirts and sparkly things. I don't even know what a dance hall would have looked like in 1910. I'll have to research that. But this building is like really beautiful. So I actually stood outside here and taught people, did a short video on how to take the bus in Vancouver, because in different cities, it's different with, you know, the kind of unwritten rules for bus etiquette. I'm going to take you inside here and show you how beautiful this building is. And you haven't seen an A&W restaurant in 10 years. That's hilarious. We have them all over Vancouver. All right, so I came right in here and talked about the Sky Train and the Sea Bus because they now run out of here. But look at this building. Isn't it just beautiful? When I finally get my in-person tours launched, this is where I'm thinking of actually meeting my tour guests is in this building. Rogue, that is my favorite, one of my favorite restaurants in Vancouver. They do a killer happy hour. And as I say to everybody in Vancouver, I don't mean for drinks. Like Vancouver's expensive. We go to happy hour for food, and ours are usually from 2 to 5 and then 9 to close. And this Rogue restaurant has kind of like a New York meets West Coast kind of vibe to it. It's really cool. So there's also another one 4 blocks from my apartment. So I love, right? The call, oh, it's just such an impressive building. I love it. So we're getting down towards Canada Place. And every time, and I'm here every day at Canada Place almost during the summer. And every time I come to Canada Place, I get goosebumps because this is where I got to do the Christmas karaoke too, but the Taylor Swift karaoke. It's really funny because in July, I love that I get to show you guys like Vancouver while I'm doing this chat. In July, I went to my general manager and was like, hey, so Swifties are coming. What are we going to do? And they were like, oh, I don't think that's something we can do like corporate wise, blah, blah, blah. And it just, no, no, no. I'm like, are you sure? Because like I was in New Orleans and people went in 2-3 days ahead and I was there the whole week after and the Swifties stayed for like 2 or 3 days after, of course, because then it's cheaper to fly out if you stay another couple of days. And also, like, if you're going to go to New Orleans, like, go to New Orleans. And they were like, no, it's just not, no, but we're doing Christmas karaoke. And I was like, ugh, whatever, okay, fine. And then in August, they came to me and they're like, we just had a meeting with Destination Vancouver. And we gotta do something. we got to do stuff for the Swifties. I was like, I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. So they came up with Taylor Swift Karaoke and they asked me to help spearhead the project. And I was like, so happy. Like it just made my year. Because one, I'm a new Swiftie, but they knew I was like diehard Swiftie. And two, it gave me a chance to show them what I can do for event planning. So I got to tailor, the list of songs. I worked with another Swiftie on staff, and we each came up with our list of Taylor karaoke songs, the best ones, and they basically matched like song for song. And it gave me a chance to be like, okay, what can I do for my part? And so and for the event. So I actually came up with the idea of, can we all get together? And obviously not a paid event because we're all mostly laid off at this point. But can we have a little Swiftie party? And off topic for a sec, that is Sinclair Center. It's where a lot of the government places are for passports and Service Canada and stuff. So I'm doing another little show here. So I said, what if we put it out there for people to come into the office for an afternoon, I'll bake cookies because I'm going to make Taylor Swift's favorite chai sugar cookies. And can we get like hot chocolate from Costco? And we'll just offer them cookies and hot chocolate if they come in and help us make friendship bracelets. And some people brought their kids in. So it was really cool. And we just had a fun afternoon of listening to Taylor Swift music and making friendship bracelets. We ended up making something like 200 bracelets that afternoon. And people got so addicted to it that they were using all the leftover bits. The reservation staff were sitting in their offices because it's a little bit quieter at that time of year, using up the last of the beads um, to make more bracelets. So we had them to kind of give out at our discretion on board. And I got to do the first 3 karaoke sessions because I was going to be working Taylor Swift at BC Place. And then Owen, the other Swiftie, got to do the remaining sessions. And then I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to get the shifts at BC Place. If I knew now, then what I know now, I would have never worried about it. But Owen ended up having to do like 5 or something, or 4. And they were like, if you don't get the concert gig, then you can come and do like the last karaoke tour. And our karaoke tours were booked out solid. Every single, we started out doing one every day, Thursday, Friday, no, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then they added a Wednesday night, a Thursday afternoon, and I think Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, and just kept to the one on the Sunday. So now we're down at the harbor. This is the port. This is where I basically live in the summer. There's something about this area that reminds me of Oakland. Being in San Francisco and looking across to Oakland or something. I don't know. In San Francisco. This is Canada Place. Here are the sails. It's harder to see the sails with, that is North Vancouver behind the sails. Usually you can see Grouse Mountain, but not today. So down here is where I sit on Mondays with the luggage from the Disney ships. Down in that middle row there, along here is where I hang out. So when I post those pictures on my Facebook about this is my office for today, this is where I'm sitting. This is the Seabus terminal, the little gray building down there, the red bridge walkway, and you can get to North Vancouver in about 12 minutes. It runs every 15 minutes all day long up until 9:30. This is also one of our convention centers, and beyond it is Convention Center West. Now, this convention center here is where they had the merch, not booth, room, ballroom for Taylor. So everybody was coming down here to get their Taylor merch. And of course, big bus with our double deckers. This is also where we load our guests on board for the buses. So on the very first day, on the Wednesday, oh my gosh, I was so excited to go host I don't even do karaoke, and I was like, I will host this. So it was like a learn quick. And I was so excited going to work. I actually tripped and fell down the stairs in my non-level headed excitement. And came down. I was like an hour early for my shift. I wanted to be all prepared. I had found hats at the dollar store, like the 22 hats that Taylor gives away. I had those. And I was like, it was kind of like the kickoff for me of my 5 days of Tay. And I was literally almost vibrating. I was so excited about just getting to do this and being part of welcoming Swifties to Vancouver. So this is the Vancouver Convention Center. We have, it's not as easy to see it during the day, but this is a bear all lit up. There's one of our words left over. Let me see if I can get it on screen here. Cheer. That's what the Taylor words looked like, and they were all around the city. And this is also the Pan Pacific Hotel. That is Fairmont Waterfront Hotel. Hard Bean across the street. The restaurant is one of the hottest new brunch spots in Vancouver. And down that way is the Fairmont Pacific Rim. So we have 3 Fairmont hotels downtown. So this is where my first day of Tay happened. And on my first tour, I had a young lady, it's probably about 12 years old, come up. And she was a dead ringer for Taylor when Taylor was her age. Like everybody was like, it was like seeing Taylor. And she played along and was so much fun. So I ended up giving her the 22 hat. And part of my costume was to wear the 22 hat myself. And I had a shirt that said, it kind of looked like her shirts that she wore for the 22 song that were like something about not a lot going on at the moment or something. Mine said, I'm so bored, and I bought it during the pandemic. Talk about foreshadowing. So that is North Vancouver across the water there. And I thought it was hilarious because, one, I'm usually never, ever bored. Like boredom is not a thing for me. It's not that I don't allow it. It's just that I'm very high energy. And so, of course, during the pandemic, I'm sitting at home bored out of my mind. So I had to order the shirt, having no idea it would come in handy 4 years later to be a karaoke host for Taylor Swift. So also in that first night, I think it was that first day, we had a family on board for karaoke. And they were from New Zealand. They had literally come to Vancouver. There we go, that's Stanley Park over there. And a big sulfur mill across the water, if you can see the yellow. So this family had flown all the way to Vancouver to go to Taylor Swift. And they brought Grandpa with them. And Grandpa actually paid for the trip and the tickets. Or something like that. Definitely the tickets, but yeah. Anyways, it was so cool. And the grandpa was just there being a good sport, but you could tell that he was just loving being with his family and being able to do this for them, with them, whatever. And it was just like, I just felt so honored to have all these amazing stories and things and hosting people and showing them my city. And just, I don't know that I've ever had a prouder moment being from Vancouver, being a tour guide, being a host, and being part of the whole Swiftie thing. Like, it was just amazing. So on the Sunday, which was the last day of Eras, I decided I was going to do a virtual tour. and I mean, you have to understand, like, oh, there's my bus, my double-decker, big bus, Vancouver, yay. I've actually run into them twice today doing tours. Doing this tour, I should say. So I've been working hard. I was ready. I was answering, probably spending an hour or two every day answering messages, private messages from people coming to Vancouver. A lot of it was women who've never traveled alone before. And they were like, I am going to this concert. Like, I am terrified of traveling alone. I've never traveled by myself. I've never gone this far away. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so scared. Help me. And I just was like, I got you. Let me, what are your biggest concerns? Let me answer your questions, like all this good stuff. And like literally 2, sometimes 3 hours every night, just responding to people, looking up information for them, double checking where their hotels are, cross-referencing with transit, and just really going above and beyond to help launch my company. And so on the Sunday morning, so we did Wednesday karaoke, 2 karaoke's Thursday, went out to find the words from Taylor's Words Around the City, the 13 words with my sister and my niece. Saturday morning, I slept because I was exhausted because Friday night I worked. Friday day, I was answering messages, and Friday evening, I worked the Canucks game, and that ended up, it was a, the hockey fans were super tense. There was so much going on. We had two Canuck games during the 3 Eras days right across the street, and then Cirque du Soleil doing two performances a day in the middle of basically right with the arena and the stadium. So we had three major events going on for 3 days straight in one area with a city that does not have the infrastructure for all of this madness. Here's another building. This is the big brick one is the Marine building. And this one, I used to talk about this building. We're going to go off topic for a second. All the time when I worked at Rocky, and I loved it because it's such a cool looking building, and they've renovated the inside back to what it was when it was first built and all this goodness. And I was like, I don't know, like, and I had never been to New York City. I'm like, there's something about it that gives me this kind of Chrysler building vibes from New York. But like, whatever. Didn't know. And then when I started doing virtual tours through Hago in 2021, and I launched my Coffee Shop and History Walk series, I was like, I'm going to look into the history of the Marine building. And wouldn't you know it, no lie, when they opened up the Panama Canal way long ago, they had this building commissioned because none of these other buildings existed, obviously. And they were like, we want these, because there was way more ships coming to Vancouver. We want these ships to come into the harbor and like see this magnificent building. It's going to be glorious. Like it's all the outside is done to a marine theme. And, oh, that's my friend Sherry driving today with the purple hair. If you're ever in Vancouver and you do Big Bus, find out if you can go see Sherry with the purple hair as a driver. She's awesome. We were actually hanging out yesterday. So they built this fabulous building, but they wanted something grandiose. Guess what? Just like the Chrysler building in New York City. So no lie, they had the same design team design this building, right? So who knew? I don't know. I was clearly meant to be a tour guide because I have all this foreshadowing in my life. It's just great. So on the Sunday, after my crazy weekend, I came down, maybe some of you saw it, and I did a little tour of Vancouver just to show people the energy of how fabulous it was and all the sparkles. I swear it took months to get all the sparkles off the sidewalks here. And I wanted to show the vibe for anybody who maybe couldn't come or, just needed a little cheering up because maybe they didn't go to Eras or didn't get to go. I wanted to share Vancouver with them. And I was down here. I started at the Sheraton Wall Center and I walked about 6 blocks down here, stopping at a few of the words and continued on. And I get down here and people were still lined up, of course, for the merch. And I sat down on one of the round metal circle parts and chairs and just kind of sat still with my camera for about 5 minutes, just filming all the people running around and how excited they were and taking pictures with the words nearby and like just catching all of the excitement of it. And all of a sudden this lady came up to me and she's like, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but you're the lady from TikTok and I couldn't have had such a great trip without you, or something like that, going on about how I'd helped her and she felt so much better. And I was just like, wow, that is like the be all, end all of like, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I set out to do. And I was just so happy that I'd made all these people happy about feeling better about coming to a strange city by themselves and all of that. And it was so cute because she's, of course, on the video, like she's talking to me as I was filming. And she's like, can I give you a hug? And that to me just kind of summed it all up. Each of my shifts for BC Place was 10 hours long. And the protocol to get in was insane. Now, if you can see a little bit of tiny green roof, kind of above my finger there, green roof and gray building. That is the Fairmont Hotel Vancouver, known as the Castle in the City. It is my favorite hotel. It is where the Lady in Red ghost lives that I love to talk about and one day want to meet. So I go off to the stadium, and normally to do a stadium shift, because I work for an agency, we walk up to the tables outside, and they know me, so they're like, "Oh, hey, Co, here's your badge, here's your assignment, go on in." And I go in. This time, there was a fence around the stadium, and we had to go show our ID and our email saying that we had a shift just to get onto the stadium grounds. Then from the stadium grounds, we had to go and show our ID again. So we were told to keep our ID in our pocket at all times. So I had to go show my ID just to be able to check in, even though they said to me, "Hey, Co, how are you doing?" I still had to show my ID, and they did not give me my assignment. I had to get my wristband and then go inside to staff check-in, where they took my bag, took my coat as usual, right? Coat check for us. And then they gave me my assignment. And then we had to just sit and we had to go we were there for 2:00 was our check-in time. The concert started at 6:45. And we had to sit and wait to meet our supervisor, then get a breakdown, and then get into position, and then wait some more. If you pulled out your phone on the floor, you were sent home. We had to stand a certain way. We had to. There was different rules. The last night, like we weren't allowed to have floor access if we weren't stationed for the floor. The craziest part for me was I was in a ramp, so I was in between the concert area and the concourse, checking bracelets of every single, or wristbands of every single person going up and down the ramp, whether they were caterers, police officers, or just concert goers. I had to check all the wristbands to make sure they had that day's color. Even the police. And they were hiding theirs on purpose to see if I was checking. So when I asked for it, they would kind of just smile and pull their sleeve up. This is the Vancouver Christmas market that I did a tour of last week. And Cactus Club Cafe, that is a very well-known and very well-loved local chain started by one of the founders was a guy I went to high school with. So it was just a wild experience. But I loved, even though I was a little disappointed that I didn't get I really wanted to be on gate to check people in coming into the arena, but I ended up getting an inside, literally. But it ended up being a great experience because basically I was checking for everyone with floor seat access. So right ahead of us, that kind of looks like the top of a teepee. That is the Olympic torch right inside the Vancouver Christmas market. So I got to see everyone's outfits, but also everyone that came down, because I was wearing my Swiftie bracelets, right? If you're what's the point of working Taylor Swift if you don't wear your bracelets? And so I had all the ones I wanted to keep on my left arm and all the tradables on the right. And people would come running down. They'd be like, oh my gosh, can we trade bracelets? I'd be like, yes, but I can't like pick the one you want off my wrist and pick the one you want to give me because I have to keep focused. And it was just like, it was a little chaotic, but that's what I love. It was just so fun. And unfortunately, I did my job so well the first night, they sent me back with the same supervisor to do the exact same role on the second night or the last night. But that ended up being a good thing because I took the job very seriously, right? Because I do everything 110% effort. And I got the same position with the same supervisor. And at one point, she came to me because no one was allowed on the floor. And she's like, remember that lady that got past us? Like, do you think maybe we should go look for her? And I'm like, on the floor? You want to go look for a lady who's like 5'4" in a red turtleneck to see if we can find her? And then she kind of gave me a funny look and I was like, oh yeah, let's go look for her on the floor. So my supervisor took me down onto the floor. And it was during the surprise songs. So I got rewarded for working so hard by being brought right onto the floor of the Eras tour to enjoy a little bit of the concert. And that pretty much made my day. And then at the end, it was just like, it was crazy because everybody was leaving from the floor all at once. And it was even crazy because that night, on the last night, when they looked at the numbers and stats, they realized that our gate had put through the majority of floor seats. So like there was four or six entry points to the floor seats, and we did 60% of the people through our gate. I don't know how they know those numbers, but I guess they know from the scanners, scanning the tickets to get exchange for the wristbands. But like we were crazy busy. And so and the show, on a normal concert, once the main act goes on, everything goes dead. But like they were still selling tickets outside for thousands of dollars, like 40 minutes after Taylor went on stage, because let's remember her show was 3.5 hours long. In fact, I think an hour in, they were still selling tickets. And people were and they were running. Like once they got in, they were running down the ramp. I had to get them to slow down. They were like so excited. So we had to scan them quickly and get them into the show. And so it was crazy. Like it was just crazy. In fact, Taylor's concerts, they last minute sold all the seats. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but they sold all the seats behind the stage. And people were like, what? They sold the seats behind the stage for $15 face value, Ticketmaster. Of course, the scalpers sold them for like $500, $1,000. But the people who got them straight up on their own paid $15. And everyone's like, why? Why would you want to sit behind the stage? Taylor, I mean, I'm sure she had this plan all along. Taylor made sure there was a giant screen behind the stage so they could see the whole show. Like, she is just such a class act. Everything she does has a purpose and a meaning. She's an amazing businesswoman. And don't tell me this crap about, oh, she has a marketing team, she has this. Yeah, of course she does, because they're the ones who execute her ideas. Like, I will defend Taylor to my dying day. And the fact that I turned around and modeled some of my business stuff after her and kind of rode her coattails, obviously, I did it because why wouldn't you do something? I was having this conversation with another one of my entrepreneur friends the other day, because the t-shirt shop in New Orleans, the chain of them, Flirty Girl, is owned by this amazing woman who I absolutely love, and I follow her, and I love all of her marketing ideas for social media. And one of my friends in New Orleans was actually one of her managers, and Pam said to me, like, if you like what Lauren does, then why don't you just copy what she's doing, but do it in your girl in a bus way? And so why wouldn't you do that with Taylor too, right? Like, she's brilliant. So the whole experience was just absolutely magical in every way. And then one of the last amazing things was, as everybody was filing out after the very last Eras show, and being at the show is an experience in itself, like just crazy. I saw a thing somewhere where Taylor designed the Eras tour so that it was like scrolling through social media where like every 15 seconds or something new to look at. Like, again, brilliant. So you leave the arena just like in a fog, like you're in a dream. You've just had the time of your life. You've been singing out loud for 3.5 hours. It's basically therapy. And you're now leaving, and this is it. This is the end. It's all over. This is the last show ever. And it was very overwhelming to have thousands of people walking past us up the ramp. It was like herding cattle, or like, when you go to the stockyards in Fort Worth and they do the whatever with the cows or whatever through town. It's kind of like that feeling. And so there's all these people just coming out for forever. And all of a sudden I hear this, "Hey, Cole, thank you so much. I had the best time in Vancouver. You're the best. You're amazing. I love you." Coming out of, I didn't even see who it was. It was literally from the middle of the crowd. And that was the last thing. And I left the arena. I'm not going to lie, I was a little teary-eyed that it was all over. And I sat at the bus stop for 2 hours because the city traffic was jacked up like crazy. And I was content. I had gone for one last look on my way out of the stadium for the friendship bracelet that came from New Orleans. And when I saw that walking up to the stadium for my shift on my first Taylor shift, I literally cried when I saw the friendship bracelet from New Orleans. It just, it was so, it just took me right back to seeing it walking up to the Superdome. And so I got my last few pictures, which I'm actually going to get put onto an orange hoodie for, TS12. And with a picture of the bracelet, the big poster behind it, and one of my wrists with, I had friendship bracelets on that were 2 inches deep. Like, it was crazy. And so I walk past it, I go and I sit at the bench. I went to the 7-Eleven, got a little snack because I figured it was going to be a long wait for the bus. And I didn't even care because I just wanted to sit and just reflect on all of it. And as I sat there, they were already they ripped down the stage right away. As I was sitting there, the first of something like 30 trucks were starting to roll out of Vancouver with her stage. And I found out recently she had 2 stage sets. So she would be at one city, and the stage for the next shows would be on their way because it takes 4 days or something to set up her stage. Crazy. And I just remember sitting there and I'm watching all the trucks roll out and limos and all this goodness, and reflecting on everything, and just feeling, I don't know, maybe one of the happiest things I've ever been in my life, overlooking the whole thing from going to the show in New Orleans and being creative and helping launch my company and just all these fabulous things. And I just sat there, and I got home at, I think it was 2 a.m. or something. And I literally was just I held it together. I kept going. I was a machine for 5 days. And I walked in and literally threw on my pajamas and timbered right into bed. And that was the end of me. I slept for the next 14 hours. 14 hours. And recovered. Drank a lot of water. And it was, yeah, it was wild. So, this, I think, is the end of my tour. So I'm going to flip the camera around. Bear with me here. I'm a little bit slow on it still. Going back into doing videos again. And again, here I am now doing a whole bunch of videos. And just having a crazy few days with all of the Christmas stuff here in Vancouver. I was did the tour of Fort Langley yesterday. I was at Mary and Bright yesterday with a good friend. I am going to Victoria on Sunday. I have my first in-person tour tomorrow. What have I done here? Okay, I think this is it. I think I've done this right. Yes, there we go. So again, I've done myself in with 5 days of tours and all kinds of things. I'm going to do some lives from Victoria. I have tickets to go to Bouchard Gardens and the lights show there. 2 tickets for free from Big Bus. So I'm going with a friend of mine that I used to work with at Build-A-Bear. And we're going to go do all things Victoria, stay overnight in Hotel Z. So I'm probably going to do a live from there because, like, I've been dying to stay at this hotel. It's a 70s vintage themed hotel on the way into Victoria. There's also a big Lego exhibit. And I've heard you can do s'mores on the patio of the Fairmont Empress Hotel. So that sounds like kind of a thing. But I just want to say thank you so much for those of you who've tuned in and followed my tour today. I hope you've had some fun seeing Vancouver, hearing stories. And I don't know if you have any questions about some of my experiences, drop it in the chat. Get a hold of me. And make sure you've subscribed to my YouTube channel for Girl on the Bus Adventures because I've just posted a tour for Lafarge Lake. And I think for reading 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, the Louisiana and the Canadian versions of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Just a little reminder, my tours are free to join. They are tip supported. And always for the month of December, a portion of my tips goes to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is what the Gingerbread Lane supports. That's what my in-person tour is for tomorrow, that and Canada Place down here. And the rest of my tips are actually going towards me doing a stand-up comedy class in 2026. This is one of the ways I thought would be really fun to kind of enhance my speaking skills, but also one day I would love to be on a stage doing stand-up. I've got some pretty funny stories, I think, and experiences. So stay tuned. I'm also going to go do a tour of Granville Island with some Christmas lights. And I'm also later going to do a virtual tour for Gingerbread Lane this year. Because remember, it's different every year. And probably a few other things around Vancouver too. We'll see what I get up to. I am currently waiting to get my license as a security guard. I've done all the paperwork, just sitting and waiting. So I have a little bit of extra free time right now, unless I find a temporary job in the meantime. But I'm here and excited to be able to do a bunch of tours again this Christmas because eventually my goal is to just do a lot of in-person tours as well for the Christmas season. A bunch of kids going by. Oh, they're probably going to the Christmas market. I don't know that I would want to take 20 toddlers or 4-year-olds to a Christmas market. That sounds like insanity to me. So anyways, I am going to say goodbye. I hope you've had fun today. I certainly have had fun reminiscing and showing you around my beautiful city. And I will catch you on the next tour. Thank you so much for joining today. Again, this is Co from Girl on the Bus Adventures. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on TikTok and as well on Instagram. And I have my little private Facebook group on for Girl on a Bus Adventures as well that is a little bit inspirational and a little bit intentional for knowing what's going on. Have a great rest of your day and go find some Christmas magic. Thank you.